When we first got on the plane, and I was sitting in between two Argentine people, and I didn't know Spanish at all. I just knew what I learned from in the MTC, and I didn't really know that they're from Argentina. But I remember that there was a problem with the overhead weight bins, and that there was too much weight inside, and that the flight attendant was trying to explain that to the lady that was sitting next to me that only spoke Spanish, but the flight attendant only spoke English, and so I kind of had to like translate even though I didn't know Spanish. So it was kind of fun. That was my first experience talking to someone that only spoke Spanish, and they understood, and so that's a plus. And then I remember on my other side there was an older gentleman, and I asked him if he was from Argentina. He said he was from Buenos Aires, and he just kept talking to me for like 10 minutes, and I didn't understand anything he was saying, but it was fun. It was all really exciting. Me and all my district from the MTC were all freaking out. We're like, who's our trainers gonna be? They had all the trainers there. Like everyone was like, that's gonna be your trainer. That's gonna be your trainer. But then we had a meeting, and then the mission president just said, all right, here's your new companion. So you're good to go. My companion was Brazilian, didn't speak a lot of English. And so I was excited about that because I wanted to learn Spanish quickly. And it helped a lot, so I was excited. But it was a little hard at first, just not having a companion that spoke English. All I knew was English and Spanish. We just always communicated in Spanish, and so it was a good experience. A good thing that surprised me, honestly, was just how fun the mission was just right from the beginning. That, honestly, before the mission, going into it, I thought it was going to be just church every day. Church every day for 7 days. But it surprised me how fun it was and how much that you would just come to be just great friends with your companion, and that it wasn't just church every day. And that it really became something fun to talk to people about the gospel. As far as like food goes, it wasn't hard for me to adjust because the food in Argentina is really good. It's amazing, and sure, like you might have to adjust as far as certain foods go, and the water goes. And a lot of missionaries get sick pretty quick, and usually if you don't get sick, like it's a miracle. And so, sick meaning you just have diarrhea for a few weeks. But I originally started in the Rosario mission, which includes most of the province of Santa Fe, all the province of Entre Rios, and part of the province of Buenos Aires, just in the north. When the mission got split and the new mission Santa Fe was created, it just took about the middle part of Santa Fe, because Rosario's in the south, and so it went with the south. And then the new mission was just the middle part of Santa Fe and all of Entre Rios. And when I started my mission in Entre Rios, and then I went to Santa Fe for the middle part of my mission, and then I ended my mission in Entre Rios. And so all my mission I actually served within the boundaries of the new Santa Fe mission before it was created. As far as the city of Santa Fe goes, it's a pretty big city. Not quite as big as Rosario. There's been missionaries there for about 50 years. In the city of Santa Fe, there's, I believe, about 20 wards. Some of those are branches. There's 2 stakes, the Santa Fe North stake and the Santa Fe stake. I served in both of them. Really great people in Santa Fe. There's some really poor areas, but there's also some very, very well-to-do areas. I served in probably one of the poorest areas there, and also the richest area. And so I kind of had both experiences. So in Santa Fe, it's probably 80% Catholic, or more, that it's predominantly Catholic. Now we're starting to see a lot of evangelists. There's a lot of people starting to go over to the Universal Church, which is a Brazilian church that came over. But mostly Catholic. As far as people's views on missionaries go, is you'll always hear that the missionaries are spies. They came over to steal our water. They're from the United States, from the CIA. You're always going to hear that. Then there's always going to be the people that try to spread rumors about the missionaries. Like, oh, I saw a missionary going over to that club with that girl, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. But they're always trying to say that. But for the most part, they do accept the missionaries. That it's part of the culture that there's always people in the street, whether they be Jehovah's Witness or evangelists or Catholics, that are always going around knocking on doors, talking to people. And so it's something they're used to, of talking to people about religion. And there's a lot of people that get into it. There's a lot of people who don't want to talk about religion, but there's a lot of people that like it, that like to argue with you, like to Bible bash and things like that. Some very common challenges for people there is smoking. That there's a lot of people that smoke, and it's hard for some people to get over it, but if they do the basic things as far as reading their scriptures, saying their prayers, going to church, it's pretty easy to get someone to quit smoking if they're really committed to it. I had an investigator once who had been smoking for 15 years. She wasn't very old, but all her family told her that she'd never ever be able to quit smoking, and she always had the desire to quit smoking. Started meeting with us. She started doing the things she had to do, read in her scriptures every day, came to church every week, saying her prayers, doing all the little tricks there are to quit smoking, and she quit smoking. And to this day, I'm pretty sure she doesn't smoke. And that miracle in their family led to her mom getting baptized, and also her little brother getting baptized, and also her daughter getting baptized. And so, really, there's that challenge. And a lot of people aren't going to be able to quit smoking, but if they do the things that they're supposed to and they keep their commitments, then they're going to be able to overcome it. And that goes for any challenge that they might have, whether it be they're not married to the person they're living with, which is also a very common thing, that people need to get married before they can get baptized. I started my mission in Concepción del Uruguay, which is on the border of Argentina and Uruguay. Actually, now it's not part of the mission. It actually got moved over to the Uruguay mission. But I started there. I was there for about 5 months, and then I went to Santa Fe in the north. I was in an area called Recreo. I was there for about 6 months. Then I moved just a little bit to the south in an area called Ayacucho, also in the North Stake. I was there for about 4 months, and then I went to Costanera, which is one of the richer areas of Santa Fe in the south, right on the beach. And I was there for about 4 months, and then I went back to Entre Rios, and I ended my mission in an area called La Paz. When I first got to Argentina, I was worried about what the food would be like. I was never really one to be scared of eating something or trying new, but I was surprised at how good the food in Argentina was. It's not that healthy for you. There's a lot of fried foods as far as like French fries go, a lot of pizza, a lot of hamburgers. There's a thing called milanesa, which is from chicken to beef to fish to liver, and they bread it and fry it, and I ate that a lot. As far as really common dishes would go, is a lot of days we had rice with some kind of sauce on it. Almost every day we had some kind of pasta. That's also really common to have, whether it be spaghetti or any, well, they have every kind of pasta there, and so we would have pasta a lot. Other things we would eat a lot is the Argentine asado, which is the best. It's the thing that I most miss about Argentina, which is just like the Argentine barbecue, and that they really just take every part there is from a cow and put it on top of the grill, and then just cook it for 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes, until it's just really tender. And usually the only seasoning they put on it is salt, and somehow it just turns out amazing. I went to Argentina not really liking meat that much, to just have a big piece of meat on my plate, but now I leave Argentina just wanting to go back to that. Argentina is really big into drinking tang. Like, we drink it here too, but not that much. But in Argentina, they really drink that all the time. And they just sell them in little packets, and they just drink tang all day. Because I think that a lot of people don't really like water that much. It's either they're drinking tang or they're drinking mate. Other foods that are really common to eat are empanadas, which are, they're kind of like Hot Pockets, I guess. Just a little smaller. They're like a little, I don't really know how to explain it, but they're just a little like meat or something inside of a little pastry. They also fill them with a lot of things, from ham and cheese to ground beef to fish to chicken. Also really good. They do eat pretty much every part of a cow. I think I've had heart, liver, every part of the intestine that there is, from I guess it'd be the glutes to the ribs to pretty much every part of a cow. And so they don't waste a lot of meat as that goes. So I had the privilege of starting my mission in Entre Rios and also ending in Entre Rios. The word Entre Rios literally means between rivers, and that's how it is. There's a river on the west and a river on the east, so it's completely surrounded by rivers. It's a lot different than Santa Fe in that the majority of Entre Rios is a lot of country, a lot of farmland, a lot of chickens, a lot of cows. Pretty much everyone who lives there has chickens or some kind of birds in their backyard. It's a lot less educated as far as the people go. They're a lot more laid back. They drink a drink called mate, which is like like an herb. It's like a grass that's crushed up and they put into a cup called a mate. And they drink it through a filtered straw called a bombilla, and they just drink on that all day. And they pass it around from person to person and drink this mate drink. It's actually pretty good if you ever get into it. And so you notice that there's a lot more of that culture in Entre Rios, and that they just kind of sit around a little bit more. A lot of people are construction workers and farmers, and so they have a lot more time to just kind of sit. And you'll notice the people in Entre Rios are a lot more willing to accept what you're willing to talk about. They're not as much as in a hurry, that they'll be willing to sit down and talk to you for a while. But really, really good people in Entre Rios. A lot slower paced. Entre Rios, especially on the eastern side, is really close to Uruguay, and it has I met a lot of Uruguayos, or people from Uruguay that lived in Entre Rios, and that was really common for the people to also have been over to Uruguay. They share a lot of culture with Uruguay. Basically, people from Uruguay and people from Entre Rios are basically the same people. I had a companion from Uruguay, and it was like he was Argentine, that they're really pretty similar. With maybe the exception that the people from Uruguay drink more mate, which is surprising that you can, but they do it somehow. There's a lot less crime in Entre Rios. It's very uncommon that missionaries get robbed in Entre Rios, except for one city in particular in the north called Concordia, which is a little more dangerous, but I didn't hear a lot of people getting robbed in Entre Rios. In La Paz, they're famous for their hot springs. They're very touristic places. Over there, a lot of country things to do, whether it be camping or hiking or things like that. It's a very old city, La Paz. There's one of the biggest triathlons, I guess it would be, in La Paz, where there's biking and running and swimming. It's one of the biggest in South America, and it all happens in La Paz. In Concepción del Uruguay, also very touristic. Close by, there's a palace of one of the first dictators of Argentina called, I think his name was Urquiza. And so there he has his palace. It's all a museum now. There's like a church that you can go into and go and see where they executed people. You can go see the man-made lake that they have over there. We went over there on a P-Day with some members once. Very cool. So I was in the city of Santa Fe for a year and 2 months straight. So I spent a lot of time there. As far as the city goes, it's a very industrial city. There's a lot of people working there. It's very fast-paced. It's not like the country when there are people that are like a little bit slow or drinking mate all day. They do drink mate in Santa Fe, but it's a little bit faster-paced. As far as like the poverty and social classes go, is that mostly to the north and outside of the city you have the poorer areas and the more dangerous areas. And to the south you have the richer areas where the people who are doctors and lawyers and stuff like that. Then there's also several islands that are around, crossing bridges. There's a really famous bridge there called the Puente Colgante. It's really pretty. I think as far as in any Argentine city goes, you're going to always have lots of bakers, always have a lot of shoemakers, always have a lot of people that are selling clothes. If you go to like the central areas, the shopping areas, you're always going to have a lot of that. There's a lot of people that are teachers, a lot of people that are tutorers, but I'd say probably the predominant thing is probably construction there, that most people are construction workers. In Santa Fe, it's right on the edge of the Rio Paraná, or the Paraná River. It's very humid, and it's kind of, Santa Fe is down a little bit below sea level, and it's kind of in like a bowl, if that makes sense. And it gets very humid, and in the summer it's very hot and very humid, and you just leave your apartment and you're already sweating. And in the winter it does get very cold and very humid, but it does never snow. As far as housing goes for missionaries, all very, very good. You're always going to have that one companionship that doesn't have a good apartment, the unlucky ones. But when the new mission president got there, he made a really big effort to get all the missionaries very good apartments. And all my time in Santa Fe, I was in excellent apartments. As far as crime goes, it's one of the most dangerous cities in Argentina, like next to Rosario, which is also very dangerous. I think probably more dangerous than Buenos Aires, even though Buenos Aires is a lot bigger. I think it's because there's a lot of poverty in Santa Fe, especially in the north. But the crime is pretty bad. But if you're always paying attention to the spirit, then nothing's going to happen. When I was in my area called Ayacucho, which is in the North Stake, it's probably the poorest area in Santa Fe. Also a lot of crime there. It wasn't uncommon to hear that missionaries got robbed there and in a lot of areas in Santa Fe. But I remember that one time I was with my brand new companion. It was his very first day in the mission, and I had never gotten robbed in that area. I had only been there one transfer, but I hadn't had any close calls really either. And so I was thinking that we were safe, nothing was going to ever happen. And I remember we were walking back to the apartment. It was like 9 o'clock at night, and I saw two kids standing in the street, about 20, and I had the feeling probably shouldn't go that way. But then I thought to myself, but I've never gotten robbed here, and I haven't heard of anyone getting robbed for a while, and so we're just going to do it anyways. And so we went, and what happened? They went and robbed us. And it wasn't a big deal. They just took 15 pesos from me, which is like $2. But my companion, who he didn't know that he couldn't carry things out in the street, had his camera on him and a watch, and they took that, and I felt pretty bad for him, but that's what happens. But it's things like that, in that if you're always paying attention to your feelings and the spiritual impressions that are coming to you, that nothing's bad going to happen. The only thing that happened to us is because I didn't pay attention to the feeling that I felt. But that was also part of the learning process, in that from that point on I always listened to the Spirit, because I knew what it felt like, and I knew that what I had to do. And you have to be very careful, because a lot of times the people there they're high, or they're drunk, or they just are desperate for money, and so if you don't cooperate them, it can be very dangerous. Most of the times they fake that they have a weapon. They usually don't have anything, but one time we did get robbed at gunpoint, and that was scary. But as long as you cooperate with them, if you don't have anything, you don't have anything, but always try to carry something with you to give to them, whether it be 2 pesos, which is like 40 cents, or a little more. Don't carry too little, because then they get upset that you're not carrying enough. And it wasn't uncommon for us to hear that 2 robbers went up and just killed someone sitting on their porch just to get their money. And so always be very cautious. Walk in the middle of the road. Don't go into really dark areas. Always stay in the lighted streets. It says all this in the mission handbook, but as long as you follow those, you'll be protected. As far as transportation goes, Santa Fe has a very good system as far as the public busing goes. That you'll probably get a card when you're there, just a yellow card, a bus card, and you can go to pretty much any little store on the side of the road, and they'll usually charge your card. And you just get on the bus and pay. It's always going up. every few months it's more expensive, but that's normal to be expected. But you can usually get to any area you need to by bus, and so a lot of times they're not always reliable. Sometimes they come 20 minutes late. A lot of times you're waiting for a bus for a long time. But as far as the busing system goes, it's very good. As far as cost of living goes, it depends on the area of the city. When I was in the poor area of the city, I could make it through the end of the month with having hardly spent anything. And we would usually end up with like a little extra cash to buy more candy. But when I was in the richer area, it was a little harder to live, because where a cookie in the north area would be 2 pesos, and in the south it's 5 pesos. And so it kind of depends on the area, but when you're in the north it's usually cheaper, in the south it's usually a little more expensive to live. Probably the heat is the most extreme weather. It gets up to over 100 degrees, and plus you put humidity on that and it gets really hot. There'd be days when we were in our apartment trying to study and just have all our shirts off and just have the fans blowing, because it's just too hot to deal with. Getting dogs to leave you alone, because there's a lot of dogs. Like, you could stand in the street, look around, and there'd be 10 to 15 dogs just running around. And some of them are mean, most of them are nice, but a lot of times they'll come up and bark to you, so you learn a lot of ways to get them to run off, whether it's picking up a rock or making a sound like this, or saying fuera, which means get out. So we did that a lot. I remember one time we were sitting in a lesson and a dog was just wandering around, came up and peed on my companion. So they'll do that. They're always marking their territory and everything, whether it be you or anything. So a lot of times what people do, you'll see always in the street that there's a bottle of water by the door. And you're like, why is that there? And one time my companion explained that so the dogs don't pee on the wall. For some reason, if you put a bottle of water by the door, the dogs don't pee there. And so they don't stain everything. I don't know why. But it works. Probably the craziest food I ever ate is I was at an investigator's house and they said, hey, we have a puma tied out back if you want to try it. But we were pretty sure it wasn't puma just because they kind of lied about everything. But they're like, we're going to go kill it right now, so don't come look. And so they went and skinned it and hung it up, and we couldn't tell what it was because it was missing its head, but it was small. We were pretty sure it was a cat. But it was just like moving around still because I guess it just keeps having muscle spasms, and then they cooked it up right there for us and we tried it. So I'm pretty sure it was cat, and my companion said it tasted like cat because he had cat before. And it was okay. I don't know that I would eat more, but but I tried it just to try it. And earlier that day they had given us hard-boiled turtle eggs, which were not too bad. They taste kind of like normal eggs. Before we talk about the time that, like the scariest time I ever got robbed, that I was actually worried about me and worried about my companion. That it was at the end of the night. We were just in a family home meeting with a family, that it went really well, and we left their house. We were eating ice cream that they gave us, and I remember that they came out to watch to make sure, because it was in a really dangerous part of the neighborhood, and we only had to go about a block to get to our apartment, but they were watching us outside from their front yard, and we were just happily eating our ice cream, and then I saw from the corner of my eye a man come out, and I looked down and I noticed that he was just carrying a pistol by his side. I was like, oh no, what do we do? And it all happened really fast, but he just grabbed my companion, who was also new in the mission. He only had a few months, and put that gun in his back. But he didn't say anything, which is the weird thing, in that we didn't really know what he wanted, other than he's just saying, go home, go home. He was like grabbing my companion, he's like, go home. And we were like, what do you want? We don't have anything to give to you. Like, all we have is our scriptures. If you want this ice cream, it's like really good. So I tried to give him his ice cream, and like, it was weird in that he almost accepted my ice cream, and I was like, what does this guy want? And he's like, no, I don't want your ice cream. And my companion had 2 pesos on him, and he's like, here's 2 pesos, that's all we have. And he took the 2 pesos for a second, then gave it back to us. He's like, no, I don't want that either. And then he left. And then we went home, and the people that were watching us had already called like our neighbors, and everybody came out and they chased after the guy. But that was pretty scary because we weren't exactly sure like if he was okay, like if he was just gonna just start shooting us. But it was a really weird experience, but it's fun to remember. Probably the greatest life lesson I ever learned on my mission is how to listen to the Spirit. And that I think I probably went on my mission not really understanding what the Spirit was, how it communicated with me personally, maybe never having a really strong experience with the Spirit. But I really feel like if I had not gone on my mission, I probably never would have learned that. And that to this day I'd still be just wandering around lost, never being able to figure out how the Spirit communicated with me. And I feel like that the mission made that all the difference for me. When I first got to the mission, I had a really hard time with wanting to share, like with my experiences and wanting to talk. I didn't speak Spanish very well. I felt like there wasn't anything that I could really offer. I felt like my trainer was a really good teacher, and like if I spoke up, it would detract from the lesson. And so I kept pretty quiet most of the time, and sometimes my trainer would get mad at me, and he'd be like, hey, you need to help, you need to start talking on the lesson, and that we need to have 2 witnesses, or otherwise it won't bring the Spirit. And I was like, I don't even know what to say. Like I sit there in the lesson, and I worry, and I try to think of what I'm going to say next, and I can't think of anything, and I don't understand what's going on. And that time that my trainer just sat down with me, and he just gave me a good talk, and then he just told me how much he loved me, and how much he appreciated the advice that I would give in the lessons, and how he said that every time I did spoke, that it was just right on, and that it was exactly what we needed. And all the time he'd tell me, don't fear, in English, even though he didn't speak English. Just in every lesson, he just, don't fear. And that was something that really helped me to get over that, of wanting to talk with the people. Yeah. The most spiritual experiences that I ever had on my mission happened fairly early in my mission, when I had about 6 months. That I just barely got into a new area. I was with a new companion, and we had been teaching an investigator, and they had already taught her all the lessons before I got there, but she wasn't progressing very much. And my companion had the inspiration. When I wasn't there, I was actually on divisions or on exchanges, and they gave her the interview for the baptism questions. And in that interview, they found out that she had some doubts as far as Joseph Smith goes. And so when I got back, me and my companion planned a lesson to try to help her feel the Spirit about Joseph Smith. And we watched the video about the restoration. Me and my companion both bore testimony about prophets and the need of prophets and about the Book of Mormon. And then we both felt impressed that we should just ask her to pray right there in the moment to get her answer right then. Because she had always prayed, always tried. And we asked her, do you have the faith to get an answer right now to your prayer? Not later, but right now. And she said, I do have the faith. I said, okay. So we all knelt down and we started to pray. She offered the prayer asking a very simple question. Said, is Joseph Smith a true prophet? And she didn't even finish her question before she just started to cry. And I almost started crying, and I'm not a person that cries very much. And the Spirit just fell upon that house. And she just sat there and cried for a moment. And then after a while she got up and she said that she felt the hands of God on her head telling her that Joseph Smith was a true prophet. And needless to say, shortly after that she got baptized. It just goes to show that when you have a well-prepared lesson that brings the Spirit and the person has the faith, that you can see a lot of miracles in the mission. That was one of the biggest miracles I ever saw. Companions make all the difference in the mission. That you'll notice that from companion to companion is a completely different experience. That really changes your mission and your relationship with that companion. And that you'll be surprised at how much a companion will actually influence you. And so make up your mind what kind of missionary you want to be before you're with your companion. Because otherwise you'll just end up being like your companion is. Or he'll end up being like you are. If you decide that you want to be a good missionary. One thing that the members would always tell us when we had a really good companionship with me and my companion, that you could see that we loved each other, is that the members would always tell us, it's like, wow, you guys just look like you get along so well. Like, you're not like the other missionaries that are always fighting and we're always arguing. And like, we just think that's awesome. And so you'll notice you'll have so much more success when you like your companion and you communicate with your companion and you forgive your companion. I didn't get along perfectly with all my companions. That I had some companions that were very hard for me. There's one point, and then I made a list of all the reasons why I hated my companion, just so I'd be ready to show him all these things that I hated about him when he got angry at me. But I realized that didn't help me at all, and so I threw away that list and I wrote a list of all the good things about my companion. And it really helped me to love that companion more, and to this day, he's one of my favorite companions. And so make the effort to love your companions, to serve your companions. That'll make a really big difference in the work. So I was in my last area, I was with a companion that was a really hard worker, and we worked really hard. And that every day we were running to appointments, we were contacting or knocking doors, we were doing everything we could, and we were not having success. And we felt like we had the faith, we were setting goals, making plans, and we weren't having a lot of success. And is that time when I kind of feel like we got some revelation, in that the mission president was telling us to do some specific things, and we weren't doing those things. We were doing the things that we wanted to do, the things that we thought would be good for our area. And it just hit me one day, it's like I understand why we're not having success, is that we're trying to do our plans. We're trying to do what we think is best, and we're not really listening to our leaders or really listening to what really should be done. And so we made those changes, and we started to have a lot more success when we would listen exactly to what the mission president wanted us to do and our other leaders, and really pay attention, because I noticed that the revelation that they're receiving is coming directly from the Lord, and it's things that we should also do. Another thing is that the people in Argentina respond really well if you love them. And I think that is probably true in any mission, is that when you show charity to the people, that they're going to show charity back to you. And that's when you really start to see the true love of Christ. That was my last transfer, my last 6 weeks of my mission. That's what me and my companion focused in, is to really show people love and also help them to start loving other people. And we saw a lot of success with that. As the people started to feel our love, they liked us more, we liked them more, they started liking other people more, wanted to share the gospel more. And so always make plans to just love the people in any way you can. It's going to get cold, so bring a coat. Some really good things to have are a few sweaters to wear. I didn't bring any sweaters, but I bought one when I was down there. They're not too expensive. But I definitely you could bring a sweater, bring some earmuffs, maybe some small gloves that you can wear. Bring probably extra garments. They're kind of hard to get down there. Or you can get them, but it usually takes like 3 months or 4 months to get them. Bring really good socks. You'll be walking a lot. Very few areas have bikes. No area has cars. And so you'll be walking a lot. I walked out my whole mission. And so bring good shoes. Don't go cheap on as far as shoes go. Get good shoes. And as long as you take good care of your shoes, like they'll last you the 2 years. I only brought 2 pairs of shoes, and they lasted me the 2 years because I took good care of them. And that I polished them, and that I didn't just walk in water all the time, and that I kept them dry, and that I changed them and rotated them. And so as long as you take good care of your shoes, they'll last. But I saw missionaries go through a pair of shoes in 6 weeks because they didn't treat them very good. So don't kick rocks around, things like that. The shoes that I had were Clark's. They were great for me. They're very comfortable, and they were good quality. But I saw missionaries just destroy their Clark's, and so for me it worked out, but for them it did. But I don't think they treated them very well either. Well, I'm sure it was like for you, what it was like for me is that when I opened my mission call, I just felt like I needed to be in that mission. And going to that mission was really a confirmation of that same feeling, and that being in the Argentina Rosario mission and later on in the Argentina Santa Fe mission, that I really felt like it was where I needed to be. And the experiences that I've had there have changed my life forever. I've said this before, and I'll say it a million times, that really the mission saved my life. Not that I was a bad kid before, that I was really involved in bad things, but that it really helped me get on the track and really set me in motion to get where I needed to go. Really helped me to understand the gospel. I'm not going to say that the mission was easy, because it's not. But the mission is so worth it, and that now that I've been back just for a few months, I just want to go back. That the mission is so full of good experiences, that there are the hard experiences, but every day in the mission I was happy to be in the mission, and just for so much fun that I had. That of course you're always going to hear you got to work hard, but you also have to have fun, and I testify to that working hard and finding the balance between having fun really makes all the difference. And you have to be a happy missionary, and that the members are going to see that. And so I'm really, really missing my mission, but I also know that I have another mission to move on to. But I know that I wouldn't be as successful in my second mission or life if I hadn't first gone on that first mission in Argentina that really helped me to get going where I need to go.